Alright, welcome back. Last week we ended up with taking a plug sound from my upcoming pack and we transformed the sound of it a bit to match the current beat. But we didn't finish the plug yet. I wanted to distort it more so it's more aggressive and it fits the track better. I threw an amp very quickly at the end of the last Sunday's stream. Without this amp here, the plug sounds way different. So it will be very important to distort the plug enough. And actually to finish this plug sound, including the equalization, that's the first thing we will do today. And the second one is I'm either going to try another type of bass. We will try to add a different type of bass into the track, or we will add some vocals. I spent a few minutes on Splice today. I found just 2 or 3 vocal samples that I think I would like to try to add. And if we have 1 or 2 more sounds and maybe 2 or 3 one-shot effects, that would be everything I need to arrange the track. So let's get to the plug sound at first. I don't remember if I was already checking whether I want to distort the whole sounds before or after the reverb, or if I want to distort just the dry sound, or to distort the reverb only. So that's the first thing I will check now. Once again, for some context, let me add some background sounds. I think it will be best if we distort only the dry sound. It's true that if the amp is before the dry and reverb audio effect track, it's an audio effect track because I want the reverb to be in parallel processing. The plug seems warmer, but the reverb is too intense, so it could create later a mix that is too overcrowded. I want a bit cleaner sound, so maybe using the amp only on the dry sound will be better. Maybe not the amp, I'm just talking about the distortion, because what kind of distortion I want to add is something that I'm going to decide now. So as always, I'm going to bring Ableton distortion effects and we will check each of them one by one. Similarly to what we did with the Elite sound I've been making 2 weeks ago. Okay, seems like the overdrive will be an interesting option. Some distortion effects like the pedal I've tried a while ago takes out the high end from the plug sound, and I'm going to need the high end. So later in the mix, this plug will cut through all the instruments more. Also, most of these distortion effects are not going to change the sound by much, and I will be looking for some quite aggressive. In the end, I will pick the amp. Maybe this is the same choice I've done a week ago. I don't remember that well. But let's now adjust the amp to distort only the dry plug sound. So as always, at first I'm going to choose the distortion style. Maybe let's add the kick drum so it's easier to adjust the amp effect. I will stay with the heavy distortion style. It's the only distortion style that gives some warmth to the sound, or rather the only distortion style that keeps the warmth. So it's important for me to have these frequencies from 2 or 300 Hz range to be present. Even with the presence turned a bit down and even with not so much distortion added through the gain knob, the sound is heavily distorted. I'm not sure if I will need to play around with the dry-wet knob. Unfortunately, sometimes it might happen that if we use the amp with the dry-wet difference than 100%, there can be some weird phasing side effect added to the sound. No, amp is only on the dry plug sound. The reverb is not distorted so far. And the equalizer is after the dry and reverb group. So both distorted plug sound and reverb that is not distorted is getting high passed. We need same stream but in FL. Maybe by the time I finish this track, I will learn FL Studio enough so I can work in it quite comfortably as well. We will see. It would be interesting to have some FL Studio streams as well. The more time I spend in FL, the more I realize that it's not a such a bad DAW. I have been using FL for the first 4 or 5 years when I was learning music production, and I had bad memories with FL Studio. What was mostly annoying for me is the magnitude of windows that pop up from nowhere. But now I've learned some keyboard shortcuts and using FL is much more comfortable now. It's not the worst at all, let's say. Yes, I was about to set the dry wet. Let's see how it's going to sound like. Alright, right now I can't hear any phasing problems with using the dry wet control. What is interesting is that we can also shape the distortion with the volume knob, as you can see on the bottom left. When we are using the blues, heavy or bass models, volume levels can add considerable distortion, so it's not like the volume knob always adjusts the output volume. One more thing, yes, FL is good. While it's good, I promise that if I want to make stream with FL Studio, if I want to produce something with FL Studio, it will not be possible for me to produce a track using only FL Studio native effects. I don't know why, but distortion effects in FL Studio seem much less flexible than those in Ableton. So yeah, let me adjust the volume control yet. Let's turn off the pad for now and the percussion. And now onto the dry wet. We can do that when we can adjust the dry wet knob when the kick drum is playing in the background. It will be the best way to match the amount of distortion added. Actually, it's going to be difficult if I don't match the output of the amp with the input, because now if I turn off the amp, the synthesizer also gets way quieter. Let me use the utility. And now we can return to adjusting. %, seems enough because the amp is already a heavy distortion effect, so we don't need much to transform the sound like that. And let's adjust the volume of the whole plug in relation to the kick drum and the hi-hats. Later we will make another volume adjustment to the reverb itself. Actually, to be more organized, I'm going to use a separate utility for that, because this one already compensates the difference in loudness after using the amp. Now let's add the reverb. And as you can hear, after distorting the tri-lead sound, the reverb is going to be way louder, has to be way louder to be noticeable enough. And then it's going to fill the space enough. such a volume will be okay. If we make the reverb louder, again, we could risk making later the mix a bit too washed out. The synthesizer is already quite full enough with the amp added here, so I don't think there's a need to from the reverb to be very loud. I don't want to distort the reverb anymore because, well, the sound will be over distorted. I think aside from the amp, we are not going to distort the sound more. If I wanted to distort the plug sound more, I would use more of the tri-wet here. And before equalization, we can yet try to compress both reverb and tri sound, preferably with a glue compressor, because still it's a plug sound, so all these little clicks, let's say transients we could have in the plug sound, are preserved. And after the glue compressor like that, we can also later try sidechain compression. That will come from, again, a shaper and utility combination. Alright, once more, in theory I start the compression by adding around 10 decibels of gain reduction, but from what I can see, that needle stays at the same place nearly all the time, so I'm not sure if it means that it would not make much sense to compress the sound even more. If I look at the synthesizer through an oscilloscope, we can already see it's a quite flat sound. So if the needle stays in place, it means that the compressor adds the same amount of gain reduction all the time. So now if I add some makeup gain and if I quickly see if the compressor changes anything in the sound, the difference in the plug sound itself, that is little to none. I would say there's no difference between the plug sound with and without the glue compressor. The only difference is in the reverb. With the glue compressor on, when I stop playing the synthesizer, the reverb pops up front just a bit. Let's listen to that again. And that's the only difference I'm getting here by using the glue compressor. If I want the reverb to be just louder whenever the dry sound stops playing, for me there's an easier solution to that. I'm going to use the envelope follower on the dry lead sound, and I can pair that with the volume control in the reverb chain. I can use the third utility here. And I want the volume of the reverb to not be quieter, so the bottom modulation range has to be at 50%. Let's set the top one at 70. Let's see what does the volume knob behave. Okay. I've adjusted the envelope follower a bit wrong. When we play the try sound, the envelope follower makes the reverb louder, but then when the sound stops, the sound is getting quieter, so we should probably invert that. Alright, I see. I'm calling it back. For some reason the envelope follower doesn't want to work like I want it, so let's use the glue compressor instead. Both solutions will be equally fine. I just wanted to use the envelope follower for a bit fewer amount of controls to adjust, but okay. Let's compress the plug then, and if we are only about gluing the reverb, if we are only about making the reverb louder whenever the plug stops playing, maybe we can change the melody a bit to make it less, to add some spaces where the reverb can indeed shine. And now I can keep adjusting everything. So once again, what we will hear is that without the glue compressor, the reverb is more in the background, is quieter whenever the lead stops playing. And with the glue compressor, the reverb is more upfront. This is exactly what I need. The rhythm of the way how does the reverb come up whenever the plug stops playing, this is something I will adjust now with both attack and release. I feel like 10 milliseconds sound best. Now onto the release parameter. I also feel like 200 milliseconds will be fine enough. After all, the release is going to tell us that whenever the plug stops to play, the volume reduction of the whole channel, so the volume reduction of the reverb, will be applied for a longer time, so it would mean that the reverb is going to be quieter even more. It makes sense to set the release to a lower value for a more aggressive compression, and then the reverb pops out faster. We will set a bit higher ratio because I feel like the reverb is then a bit longer, so yes, there's more compression applied. And now everything else will depend on both threshold and makeup. With the threshold, we will finally tell the amount of compression, or in other words, gluing applied. Okay, with the threshold set to -24, the reverb pops out too much. I feel like the reverb is for a little while, even louder than the plug sound. It makes no sense for me to adjust the volume of it like that. So let's try -22. The amount of compression will be somewhere between 5 and 10 decibels. We could say that it says -7 decibels. I have adjusted that with the threshold. The makeup gain more or less, compensates the effect of the compressor over the shit. The makeup gain already compensates a bit the difference in the sound and the loudness. Let me use that more accurately so we can match the volume of the plug again to the kick drum. And after compressing the sound like that, I can try to use a sidechain compression on the plug. And the volume will stay at this level. If I remember well, when we leave the soft clip turned off, nothing is going to happen. But now when this light is blinking, I think I can try to add a bit of clipping to the plug sound. But it doesn't seem to change the sound in any way, so we can leave the glue compressor working just like that. There is no need for me to use the dry wet control because I already told the amount of compression applied with the threshold. So now onto the sidechain. I already have the sidechain added somewhere. Yes, I've added that on the lead sound. I can just copy and paste this. Simple rack. And yeah, I can already feel it's going to sound good with sidechain compression. Let's see how that sounds like. Let's see what does it sound like with the beat. So if I know the sidechain compression is going to work, let me adjust the rhythm of it a bit more. And then once again, the volume modulation range. 'Alright, now onto the volume modulation range, because currently the amount of sidechain compression is a bit too high. Let's increase the left value from 38 to something else. 40%, 45% will be enough. Let's listen to the plug with and without sidechain and solo. And this is exactly that subtle effect I'm looking for. So if both compression and sidechain compression sound good on the sound, what is left is to actually equalize that. At first I will... yes. Here I've added only the high-pass filter. So let me see, maybe it will be enough if I equalize the dry. and wet sounds separately. This would be cool enough. I hate equalization, so I try to do it as less as possible. Okay, the EQ8 can stay there. And yes, let's equalize just the dry and reverb separately. I will get rid of the EQ here, and we will place the high pass filter here on the dry sound. Let's add the kick drum. So, because equalization in context with some other instrument, yes, it's much better than equalizing everything in solo. That's one of beginner mistakes, to equalize sounds in solo. So please always have something in context, whether it's just a kick drum or some other synthesizer sound. It's better. It's still better than equalizing stuff in solo. Let's make an aggressive cut like before. A fun fact, now when I turn on and off the equalizer, you will see that the compressor is working a bit different. With the equalizer that cuts away the low end, the needle moves in a bit higher range. And that's because, yes, most of the low end was triggering more often the compressor. Also, we will slightly cut the high end, just the highest noise, as usual. I mean, not as usual, but this is simply what makes the sound a bit cleaner. That's true, especially since I've been using the amp that likes to add lots of noise. both low and high pass filters are now adjusted. Let me actually check if a more aggressive low pass filter shouldn't be used. No, then it's going to sound a bit less natural. So what's left is to equalize everything in between. Seems like boosting here anything. I mean, nothing seems worth boosting here. It was most obvious that there's no sense in boosting the high end anywhere, in my opinion, because the amount of hisses and weird, let's say windy noises, these were kinds of sounds that I was adding when I was boosting the high end. When it comes to boosting the mid end, I couldn't hear that much of a difference, but I can guess by boosting the mids, usually yes, we are making the sound more hollow. This is something I don't need. Now let me see if I don't need to cut anything. I can make a cut at 1.5K to make the sound just a bit cleaner. In solo, the difference will be a bit easier to hear. So the difference will be quite subtle. Alright, that's the first filter. Let's see if there is a need to stuff the other one. I think I will also make a cut at 4.6K. Here I have one of these hissy, noisy sounds that I previously didn't want to boost. If I try to solo this frequency range, this is what does it sound like. And now when I A-B this filter, I can hear clearly that hissy sound disappearing. The synthesizer becomes cleaner. Let's add this filter as well. Now let's see the difference in the sound with and without that adjusted filter. I hope you could hear it. I definitely can hear the difference in the sound. Okay, let's try once more. Some filter. And maybe 2.3K is another area where I will make a cut once more. The synthesizer is getting cleaner. In what way? In a quite transparent way. It's something that you can rather feel than hear. So maybe to help you hear the difference, let's listen to the plug in solo. Just another part of that quiet noise disappears when this filter is added. That's the third filter I'm going to add. The third filter is adjusted once more. I'm going to preview once more the sound of the plug before and after. Probably making another cut somewhere at 8K will be already an overkill. We made quite a lot of cuts in the high end already. And as I can hear, now I'm going to need these higher frequencies to make the plug cut through the mix more. Once more, if I add another high-end cut, the plug has no space in the mix. It has the mid-frequencies that are not cut, but mid-frequencies are also occupied by many other sounds, including the kick drum or the pad and percussion that I have now turned off. So it's mostly the highest frequencies where we can hear that pad coming through. So cutting here the high end is not going to make much sense. But what if I boost it a bit? Let's add the percussion as well. I think it's going to be a good choice to boost now these highest frequencies in the plug sound. Why didn't I think of boosting this frequency range before when I was checking out what frequency range needs to be boosted? Probably I didn't think of that because back then I didn't have these cuts that were making the sound cleaner. After making the cuts here, the sound got cleaner, but it got also a bit dull because most of these cuts were done in the higher frequency areas, but also in the mid ones. So now, to compensate for that, some high-end boost could be useful. Let's preview the sound before and after that high-end boost. Yes, and the plug is sounding much better. The mid frequencies here, we can't do nothing to them. I probably will not hear any difference whether if I just boost by 3 decibels or cut the mid-range by 3 decibels. Let's not touch the lower mids. After equalizing the dry sound, what is left is to EQ the reverb. That is going to get especially loud whenever the dry lead stops playing, because then the glue compressor makes the reverb louder. But still, even without the glue compressor, the reverb can be heard along with the dry sound. That's why it makes a bit of sense to equalize the reverb separately as well. Once more, I feel like the aggressive high-pass filter is going to sound better. What about a low-pass filter? Is it going to be necessary? I don't think so. The reverb isn't bright enough. Isn't bright by itself. Making it even more darker wouldn't be a good choice, because again, the reverb here is to fulfill the plug sound, and it's done mostly by enhancing the high end. Now let me try to adjust the balance between the mids and highs by using a high shelf filter. I don't think there is a need to use a high shelf filter. What about the low shelf one? Alright, I feel like I want to make the sound cleaner by just a bit. So let's add a low shelf filter. I feel like it should be at around 1K, so we are making a quite wide cut. And let's try to feel the difference in the sound. Let's play that plug with reverb with the kicks from it first, and later I will play this plug in solo so we can hear the difference better. It's not a big difference again, but it slightly cleans up the sound further. So now what remains is using a peak filter somewhere, if that's necessary. And in order to find out, I have to sweep through the frequency spectrum once more. I don't feel like boosting anything. But I feel like making a cut at 7K. The difference in the sound is going to be very small. It's more like I feel there should be some cut there, but when it comes to accurately telling or hearing a difference, I can't do that. But I think it shouldn't be reason for me to not try to equalize the reverb further. Let's try to add one more filter. And one slight cut at 2K will finish equalizing this reverb as well. Once more, the sound will be just a bit cleaner that way. And this would be everything when it comes to using a reverb and EQ on the reverb. Nothing more needs to be boosted or cut. I feel like that. So, the plug for me is finished. Just to make it more organized, I will change the volume levels here. Usually I tend to keep the volume levels here intact, so when later I arrange the track and I want to automate the volume of any channel, I'm going straight for the volume control here. What else do we have to do today? I was talking about using some vocals. Let me see, where do I have them? At first I have to create a new MIDI channel for them. And I got from Splice before the session just a few, 2 or 3 vocal samples that I would like to try using. I'm not sure if they are going to fit the track or not. This is something I want to check now. Okay, let the color of the channel be like that. Also, some of these vocals have a large difference in BPM, so it's going to be again quite interesting to hear how they are going to fit the current project BPM. Because all of these samples have the BPM of 100 or 105, so definitely some warping should be useful. So after I use warping, that is going to speed up the vocals. Let's see how it's going to sound. Let's see what the vocals are going to be like at first in solo. Oh my god, I didn't expect it to be that wrong. Yeah, without warping, we would get this sound. That for a dry vocal, of course, sounds very clean, but with the warping, the vocal is so sped up that the transient snap gives a weird sound. I can always try to, well, use a different warping modes and the beats. What about the other sample? Here, this other sample doesn't seem that bad with the warping. Okay, maybe before I try to look for any other sample, I will make sure that it makes even sense to fit the vocals like that. So let me add quickly the vocals into the beat, even though they sound horrible with the warping added. Okay, what if I pitch them down a bit? Okay, maybe not that low. With the vocals playing with the kick drum only, well, the vocals seem to fit, but that's because, well, the kick drum is going to fit most of the elements. What is more important for me is to see if the vocal is going to fit other synthesizers and maybe the pad sound. It would make some sense to try out using the vocals here. So let me look for another sample on Splice. Okay, what did I want to do? Female vocal ad-lib, yes. And we will filter the samples by BPM. I will be interested in anything from 100 to maybe 160. Let me see. Okay, now you should hear the vocals as well. And what to do? Let's play the sounds we have here without the first vocal. And in the same time, while that loop is being played, I will browse some samples on Splice. This one is kind of interesting. Let me find one more sound. Actually, maybe I can just try to browse this back only. Oh my god. I have this sample here. I'm going to save that immediately before I lose it. And from that back, as you can see, it says Psytrance back, but it doesn't matter. Let me find the vocals. And I'm going to be disappointed if all of these vocals are going to have some rhythmic gate on any other effect applied. Well, I need a clean vocal sample with no modulations. Browsing this backward, there is not going to make much sense in my opinion. There is one vocal that I'm going to try, and let's hope that because of a much closer BPM to the BPM of my project, these vocals are going to warp better. Yes, this fits much, but I can't hear any sort of glitch or any other artifact I usually get from warping. I'm playing these vocals with the beat. Let's see. Maybe let's also, yes, adjust the length of the MIDI clip. 8 bars. I think it's kind of okay. I don't know, what do you think? Of course, I'm going to try to stretch or maybe pitch up or down these vocals a bit, or maybe I will try some chorus or some sort of effect to kind of maybe not destroy these vocals, but just to give some unnatural background to it. Because when the vocals are that natural, they don't seem to fit the remaining sounds well. But at first, let's try to change the pitch of the vocals. Pitching up or down these vocals is not going to sound good. Okay, so pitching up or down the vocals is out of option. We have to keep the warping on. Maybe I can add something with warping if I set up the warping to make these vocals a bit less natural. Warping doesn't fit either. It's difficult a bit to work with the vocals, at least in my case, where I don't tend to use vocals very often. For me, it's often a choice of either keeping the vocals as natural as possible or just destroying them as much as I can. And any sort of a middle ground is quite difficult for me to keep. Let me see what I could try to use on the vocals. Of course, the reverb could be one of the effects. But the reverb will have to be very quiet. Nah, corpus is going to sound wrong. What about the vocoder? I don't feel like using a vocoder here. I was talking about the chorus or flanger and shifter. This is the trio I can also use on the vocals. No modulators. I don't want to create any other rhythmic gate effect. It's enough that the pad has some volume automations like that. I don't need any other sound to have this sort of volume modulation. Compressor is going to make these vocals less natural. It's good that there is some variation in the volume here. I'm going to make use of that. Okay, before I try to add some distortion, let me use at first these three effects to see if I should add them. What if I use the frequency shifter with a tri-wet? That's not going to work either. To thicken the vocals, I will use a bit of chorus. But before that, I have to do something else. We need to make these vocals a bit shorter. I don't like that part with the vibrato. So I would like the vocals to fade away a bit earlier. How to do that? Let's trim the sample to end at after 4 bars. And I'm not sure if then if we use release control, we will create a fade out here. Okay. It doesn't work like that. Alright. So I don't know exactly how to do that in the simpler, so maybe I will just use these vocals as an auto track. And here we will just create a fade out using fades. It's going to be much easier. And then on these vocals I will keep on using the chorus. So yes, we didn't want to use any warping, it didn't work out, as well as the pitch adjustment. So now regarding the fades, let's make it appear a bit earlier. It sounds kind of okay, but to trim the sample better, I need to visualize, I need to hear how it's going to sound like with also a reverb. So aside from using a chorus here, let me add the reverb as well, because now the vocals are dry. And the chorus will be used only on the dry vocals. And now I can trim the vocals using the fades. Let's maybe add something else aside from the kick. Yes, it needs to be a bit shorter. And now the fade out itself, how long the fade out has to be. Okay, we will keep the fade out short. Now I can return to adjusting the chorus with a reverb. Let's make these vocals a bit quieter. These are going to get pretty annoying after some time. I think I will be looking to exaggerate the vocals a bit with the chorus, so we can try using lots of feedback as well as the tri-wets. And let's add something in the background so it's easier for me to adjust the chorus. I can temporarily turn down the volume of the percussion and maybe add the percussion. From the remaining controls of the chorus, there is also some warmth that can add slight distortion. There is also a high-pass filter with which we can in theory let the chorus not process any frequencies from below the cutoff we set here. So in that way we can, for example, not use a chorus on the lower frequencies, which could sometimes lead to problems with phasing. There is also a separate width control for the width of the chorus effect and in the end the tri-wet. The vocals will sound without the chorus like that. I think it's unnatural enough. And using chorus is also a quite new thing to me. Again, chorus is another effect that I use rarely. Also, I use vocals rarely. I'm doing pretty new things to me. But the chorus is fully adjusted now. What is left is to make these vocals less dry using the reverb. At first, we will also check if using a reverb is necessary because the sample itself already had some reverb. Yes, a reverb will be necessary. Were the vocals dry by themselves? Was that a dry sample? No, it doesn't seem like. Even though the sample itself was not dry, it still feels like it could be a bit more spacious. So that's why I would like to add another reverb on top, and for yet another time let's try the hybrid reverb. The dry wet of course goes to 100%. Let's exaggerate a bit the volume of the reverb so it's easier to hear what does it do to the sound. And a convolution reverb will be here useless. Most of the convolution reverbs here are very short. Let's try again using the algorithmical part of the reverb. The prism algorithm here sounds very bright. It's good for these vocals in my opinion. We can keep the type of reverb set like that. Now I can adjust the remaining reverb controls. Again, starting off with the size and then adjusting the crossover filters. So we will be again with this X over and low and high multiplier and knobs. We will be adjusting the frequency balance between mid and higher frequencies of the reverb. In the end, the stereo width, decay, and the volume is something that I will adjust. Once more, some context would be useful. Let's add something that is not going to cover the reverb that much, so maybe the kick drum. And I will loop the most annoying part of the vocals because that part is a bit quiet, so it will be also a bit difficult to, well, adjust the reverb settings. So at first let's try boosting up the highs even more, so I will keep only the high multiplier turned up, and both low multiplier and high multiplier are probably going to work along with the X over control. So now, according to the settings, all the frequencies above 1K will be at maybe not 3 times louder, but maybe 3 times more enhanced. I'm not precisely sure what does the reverb here work like. Not that it does matter very much, because still in the end I want to adjust the knobs according to my liking to what I hear. Now onto the lower multiplier. Probably we can now make the reverb very light if we turn this all the way down. I would like to thicken the reverb more, so let's use quite a lot of low multiplier. I think that's what I'm going to try. Of course, later the reverb will be equalized as well, and this will, in the end, tell the, let's say, final balance between mids and highs, because probably here we have little to no lows anyways. This sounds about right. Now on to these more important controls: the stereo width, the size, the lengths, and the volume of the reverb. Using the vintage could degrade the reverb a bit more. I don't think that's going to be useful, because we already made the vocals a bit unnatural with the chorus. What is left, yes, is the reverb length and its volume. It will be the easiest to tell the length of the reverb if I loop a part of the beat where the vocals fade out. That's how I will know whether the reverb is a bit too short or too long by adjusting the length of that reverb tail. Around 2 seconds is going to sound fine. I don't need to wash out the reverbs a lot. The main purpose behind this reverb is to, again, just to fill the vocals a bit more, plus to not make the vocals disappear so early, so fast after they end playing. So 2 seconds should be enough, and now everything will depend on the volume of that reverb that I'm going to adjust now. The volume of the reverb will be like that. And now let's play everything, maybe not everything together. My mistake was to adjust the length of the reverb almost in solo. Now I do feel like the reverb is too short. of course, all these instruments right now, they cover a bit the reverb tails, so it might be useful to readjust its lengths. But at first I will make sure the dry vocals are loud enough as well as the reverb itself. And I'm returning to the length of the reverb. Let me try 4 seconds at first. What about 6? It could be a bit too much now. What about 5 seconds? With reverbs that long, I can also hear how present is the reverb whenever the vocals get louder and a bit different. So in the beginning of this vocal track, it's most hearable how does the reverb is different from the vocals. How come you haven't released a track on your own? I did, so it was over a year ago. I made a 2-tracker EP that was also a, let's say, promotional material for my hard techno sample pack. But I didn't have time to produce on my own because of the fact that, yeah, I'm giving lessons, I'm doing YouTube tutorials, and yes, working on the sample packs, this takes a lot of time and effort. So sometimes after working on such things, after a day of work, you just don't want to sit in front of Ableton no more. So this is what was keeping a bit me from producing tracks. I had an urge. I did want to to keep producing something on my own, but sometimes I was just too tired to make my own music on top of doing everything else. Now this changed a bit because I came to the conclusion that if I want to make a, I don't know, better brand for myself, or if I want to have more authority, I just need to, yes, produce a bit and release tracks on my own. And what convinced me to, yes, producing is that thing, and the other one is that along while I produce, I can just do a live stream. So on top of making music for myself that I can release later, hopefully, I can produce more content to the YouTube channel. So no matter how you look at it, it's a win-win situation. And now the reverb seems to be long enough so we can actually move on to equalizing everything. As usual, at first I will start off with the dry vocals. Yeah, actually, let's see how different are the vocals from the reverb, because if it turns out that the reverb sounds very similar to the dry vocals, maybe it will make more sense to equalize everything together and to not process the reverb separately, because again I would like to equalize as simply as it can. Producing your own tracks could draw more people to your brand. Yes, I agree with that. I don't know if that's fortunate or not, but quite often, yes, people who have more authority than me can just say the same thing as I do. Yet, yes, more people will listen to that other person. So definitely, branding and authority could be the reason to release something on my own. And yes, of course, it's going to take some time, yes, until I release some tracks, maybe even every 2 months or 3. This is the 6th part of a live stream, so it means that I started working on this project 6 weeks ago. So it's already 1 month and half when I'm working on this track. Maybe it's going to take me 1 more month to finish it completely when we are working at that pace. Thank you for watching my videos. Draws? I don't know how to spell that. I feel like the vocals and the reverb sound very similar to each other. Basically, the reverb is just a blurred version of the dry vocals. So, especially considering that the reverbs are on top of the vocals, I think we can just get away with equalizing everything together. And that's great because it means that I have to do less of work when it comes to equalization. But maybe to focus on the mid frequencies too, let's play a different part of the vocals where the pitch of the vocals is a bit lower. But the kick drum is... the pattern of the kick drum is annoying because that's the moment where I have the kick drum very glitchy. Let's also solo other instruments so it's easier to EQ. At first there goes a high pass filter for safety. I could see just something in the lower frequencies range, so it pays off to just use a high pass filter and be calm about the low end. By the way, I don't know if you feel the same, but now when I'm playing the vocals with the kick drum, the vocals seem too loud, but once I add the remaining, yes, sounds like the pad and the percussion, the volume of the vocals seems to be okay. That's of course an issue of the volume balance that is a bit off, but things like that will be fixed when I will be doing a final mix of the track. I will brighten these vocals more as well with a high show filter because that's the most natural and transparent solution. vocals will sound like that. So definitely they are much more open. And once more, I'm starting to say once more too often. I just noticed that. And again, vocals cut through the mix better. There's a clear difference, clear separation, let's say, between the kick drum and the vocals. The vocals are brighter, so that's why they take more space in the high end. They have to take more space in the high end. The kick drum occupies lows and mids, and in the kick drum sound, we don't have that much of high end. Everything makes sense. There's some resonance at, I think, 1K, probably it's that spike. Now it was the other one at 1.4K. This is something I need to cut. It makes the vocals a bit annoying. Let's see where it is. $1.35K. Yeah, this is going to definitely make the vocals sound less annoying. Vocals are now resonating less. Let's move back to seeing what frequencies could we boost. Now another frequency seems to be resonating a lot. Now I want to get rid of that resonance at 1K. Once more I can bring the spectrum to see where it is. 928 Hertz. Of course, after making a cut here, that resonance itself can be still a bit audible, but the point of equalization is not to remove all of the frequencies from the vocals. I can show you very quickly that if instead of making a cut like that, I used a notch filter that could infinitely remove these two peaks, the vocals are going to sound again, maybe not again, but they are going to sound just too weird. So of course, a notch filter could get rid of the resonance at all, but even though I bring the volume of the vocals, I feel like they are a bit empty. So instead of removing the resonances, I could rather say that I control them with the equalizers here. Synths got my first label release. Oh, congratulations, man. You can send me later a link to that track on Instagram. Salt Killer. Salt Killer, yeah. Been learning so much for. Okay. Yeah, that's nice to hear. Probably the volume of these resonances will be controlled later anyways when I will be doing the final mix. But okay, let's try once more. I use another filters here. And I don't feel like there's a need to cut anything more. Most important things are already fixed. I'm talking about the resonances and brightening the vocals, thankfully. The reverb and the dry vocals were similar enough for me to equalize them as a single sound. So this is how I will keep the equalization. Let's listen to the beats. So let's add other sounds. Slowly we have enough sounds to arrange, but I would like to try to add something more. I'm thinking of making a bass sound that I could use exclusively for a breakdown, and this is going to be a quite specific bass sound that I haven't heard in techno yet, but this is something you can hear more often in a drum and bass music. I'm not talking about the neurofunk bass, but some sort of a distorted sub-bass sound with removed mids. This is a note I made on myself to make a C current value like bass, and yes, this sort of a bass line is something you can hear often in a bit older current value tracks. He's a drum and bass producer that began with dark drum and bass, and around 2012 he was making very futuristic drum and bass with that sort of a sub bass sound. Anyways, let's see quickly if making a bass sound like that is going to make sense. So I need to do, all I need to do is to add a sine wave. Let it be at G. Because yes, the G should be the key of my track. Or a G sharp. Let's turn off the kick drum. And the key to get that sound I'm interested is to now distort this sub bass. Let's try quickly the amp. And now within the equalizer I should make a large cut somewhere in the mids. And let's see if that type of bass sound is going to fit the vocals and maybe the lead sound, as if I wanted to use the bass in the breakdown somewhere. It sounds cool. It's more original than Aries bass, for example. Yes, Aries bass. If I try to imagine what the Aries bass could sound like here, or maybe I can even quickly use Aries bass. Just for a second, I will bring the serum. And I have a few bass presets in my pack. If I use the bass like that with a low pass filter, we will compare that bass to the bass sound I've just made a while ago. I need to yet add a low pass. Let's play it at G sharp. So this is how the breakdown could sound like with a bass. And with the bass I just quickly made. Let's see. Okay, what if I add here more lower mids? Nah, I can't argue with the fact that Aries bass would sound better here. Does it seem like I have to create a new synthesizer sound? Probably. Yeah. I guess that's what I'm going to do then. So another channel will be the bass. I'm running out of different colors to apply, which is unfortunate. Nah. Okay, let it be that color. So as any other ridge-based sound, we need to at least detune to sort of waves. That would be the simplest bass sound. Let's make this 8 bars long. And such a raw bass sound should be quite fine. So, in theory, yes, the way I want to make a bass sound fuller, so I need to add more voices or more oscillators to the sound. And as you could hear, detuning the oscillators also makes sense. If I played both sine waves, sort of waves, without any detune, there is no respace. So there is a need to have the pitch in each oscillator a bit different. If I keep, yes, one of the oscillators with no change in the pitch, then if I add a sub oscillator that will act as a third oscillator, I will not have any pitch difference between these two. So the sound again is not going to be fat enough. So I'm already detuning the first two oscillators, and only the sub oscillator will be the third oscillator with the default pitch. The bass is a bit too loud. Let's maybe add black to that. And now let's adjust the sound further. I will start at first with the wavetable position controls. I will then adjust the pitch difference between all these three oscillators. I don't think there is a need to explore other wavetables, but maybe that's something we can try as well. I was not thinking of exploring other wavetables at first because I already have the warping section I can utilize to create different bass sounds. And now onto the pitch difference. The more detune I add, yes, the more moving the bass will be. We can keep the oscillators detuned symmetrically. It's not going to matter that much, yes, whether here we have maybe 35 or 40. To keep things simple, I'm just going to detune the oscillators symmetrically. Adjusting two detune knobs at the same time is quite annoying. Unfortunately, I don't have enough space on my desktop here to also plug a MIDI controller. I have to do that manually. And now we can adjust the third oscillator, that is a sub one. Aside from changing the pitch, I can also change the wave a bit. At 100% of tone, we can have a square wave, and the sub oscillator with the tone set to 0, it's just a sine wave. Now let me try using warping on oscillators to see if I can make this bass sound a bit more interesting. By the way, I will make sure that the volume of the track is not much higher than the volume of my microphone. As I speak, it seems like the track is a bit louder. Let's turn the volume down by 3 decibels. In the next order, I can adjust the volume of these 3 oscillators. Let me take one more look at the oscillators to see if everything is adjusted. I'm not going to try out other wavetables. I got already enough flexibility coming from the warping section. Other wavetables can probably make the bass sound more complex. Which is something that I'm not looking for. I want this bass to be simple. It has to sound that scraping. I like the sound of it. And anyways, probably we will low pass this bass soon. So what is happening in the mid and higher frequencies, it's not going to matter that much. The volume of the sub oscillators was adjusted. As well as everything else here. Let's see if I can add some stereo widths to the bass if I pan both oscillators a bit to the left and right. Is it going to sound good? Just a bit of stereo width will be useful. And now, starting with the envelopes, I can begin with the amplitude envelope. Actually, it's going to be very simple. There is no need for me to use here any sort of a fade-in. So the sound can actually begin right away. And I think I would like the fade out to be very short as well. Okay, let's see. What else could we do? The envelopes are meant here for modulation, but do I need any sort of modulation here? I don't think so. The filters, I will use a separate filter. Just a second. So using the filter section here will be pointless. The only thing I can try is to add some extra unison detune, so probably it's not going to work well because it will make the bass sound smoother, and I want to keep it more raw. Nah, there's no need for me to use unison voices. I want the bass to be that raw on purpose. The only problem that I can have with the bass currently is that the low frequencies are going to be louder and quieter. That's because of the sort of waves that are being detuned. We can see that on the spectrum. That these lowest frequencies are going to move just like that, regardless of whether we play this bass in stereo or in mono. In theory, to get rid of that, what we could try is to use an equalizer with a high-pass filter. And to fill back the low ends, I could use a single sine wave at the same plane at the same pitch. Why is it so quiet? Because of a high-pass filter. And that sine wave with a stable volume can be added to the respace, to the high-pass respace, and then the low end should be more consistent. So let's compare that. If I toggle the K key to what? To the on and off switch of the sub bass sound. Let me turn off all other channels. And yes, now to compare these two approaches, I want to map this to the sub and also to the high pass filter. So now what I'm going to do is I can show you whether the respace, if we will see if the respace sounds better if the low frequencies are fluctuating in volume. We can compare that against the bass sound with a separate sub layer, and that is going to have the low end at consistent volume. So now when the sub is turned on, the respace is high pass, and this is going to give us a more stable high end. If I press the key, the sub bass the low frequencies are going to be fluctuating. Let's bring the spectrum. And this is the difference in the sound. Let's add the vocals to see, or the plug to see what is going to be better. And yeah, the bass sound is better with the separate sub bass because the low end is more consistent. Okay, but maybe instead of using a wavetable to replace the sub bass part of it, I'm going to try an operator synthesizer, because with an operator it's much easier to add separate harmonics. Here if I use the sine wave, let's use the same settings of a volume envelope, so the attack of 1.5 milliseconds, yes, decay of 600, sustain at 0, and the release at 6.16. Now if I have the sub bass and the operator, I can move here to that tab and add other harmonics. It's almost as if I was using saturation on this sub bass sound. I can use that to, well, make the low end sound, yes, more full. For example, what I can do now is I can high pass the respace sound even more and fill the remaining space in the lower frequencies by adding more harmonics to the sub bass. So let's balance these two things. Alright, the respace is high passed. Before I try to add more harmonics to the sub bass, I will adjust its volume in relation to the bass sound. Where is the utility? It's here. Now let's try to add some harmonics to the sub bass sound to make it fuller. adding the second one will be interesting. It's so annoying when I can't type the volume, but instead I have to use the mouse to precisely adjust the volume of something. But okay, that's the second. The third harmonic is done, is added. Adding anything more is not going to make the bass sound better. And the sub bass sound is going to sound like that. Okay. What did we want to do in the end is to low pass everything. And this is the sound I wanted to add to the breakdown. Actually, the bassline should follow the melody of the plug, so after the first 4 bars we can pitch up by a whole octave everything. And since it's already a bit late, I'm not in the mood to keep finishing the bass sound because I might try to add some subtle saturation. But what I want to try to do is to start arranging the track slowly because we already have a lot of sounds. There's a respace, there's a plug, we have vocals. And honestly, I was not expecting to add the vocals. I have a lead sound, I have a pad, the percussion, the kick drum, basically everything to arrange a track. But with what part should I begin the arrangement? It's typical to begin with the strongest part of the track. So let me see if I play the kick drum, what elements are going to go well with each other. And this will be for me the way to maybe arrange some main part of the track. Definitely it's the plug sound that adds most of the energy to the whole beat. So I can imagine that the most exciting part of my track should be the part with the plug playing in the background. So maybe let me label that as the second drop. And soon I will find out what fits the plug as well. The lead fits nice. The pad doesn't sound nice along with the main plug, so I'm going to get rid of that. Let's play it. Yeah, let's move that aside. Oh my god, why does it sound that weird? Didn't I copy automations along? I want to copy the whole pad with the automations. Shh. I don't know why it works like that. I will do it in the other way. Or maybe not. Let's see. What if I copy everything individually? Okay, we will not have the pad in the main drop, in the second drop. We want to have the percussion as well. And what about the vocals? Should the vocals be also there? I don't know if that's... I'm not sure. Maybe it's that it's going to be too much. No, I think it's going to be too much. So the vocals could be moved to the breakdown, for example. If I want to arrange the breakdown, maybe let's add 16 bars of empty space. Or maybe even more bars. I want the track to be quite atmospheric. I've been, as you can see, I'm not adding any screeches or some simple bass sounds. Okay, the race bass was simple, but I want to produce a more atmospheric track, so a longer breakdown could be useful. So let's try arranging something 32 bars long. Of course, I'm not going to arrange everything today. But we can try, but we can at least start the arrangement. Okay, I know I want the second drop to sound like that. I know that these are the sounds that will be used in the second drop. To arrange the breakdown in a cool way, I have to yet know what sounds I would like to have before the breakdown. Maybe before the breakdown I could have the pads playing. That's not the easiest thing to copy. Okay. It's as if there is some automation that I don't copy along with everything. So here, yes, I could have the, right before the breakdown, I could have the pad playing. Maybe to that pad, maybe the vocals will fit the pad. And this is how it could sound like. Where is the pad? Why the pad is not playing throughout the whole length of the track? So this part of that 8 bars long loop I'm having right now, no, 16 bars long loop, is the part right before the breakdown, and here in that part I could have, of course, the kick drum, maybe also a bit of the percussion. The vocals fit well, the vocals fit the pad well, so I will keep playing both sounds. What about that purple lead? Should it be in this part as well? Not so much. I wouldn't like the lead to be there. The black, of course, doesn't fit everything. I mean, it doesn't fit the part of the track with the vocals and the pad, so to begin the breakdown, I need to have something from the vocal present. Instead of playing the vocals right in the beginning of the breakdown, I think I will freeze the reverb and make the reverb be audible in the breakdown. So what do? We automate the freeze parameter. I need to freeze the vocals somewhere from the middle. And maybe let's stop freezing the vocals right in the beginning of it. So here we will still have just a bit of the reverb. And if I wanted to make a strong breakdown arrangement, if I would like the breakdown to begin aggressively, I can already add the respace, maybe with a slight delay. Just like that, so the bass kicks in after the first bar, at the first beat. I will try to find a good moment to freeze the vocals. And I think I need to automate the volume of the reverb, because I noticed that if I turn off the freeze control, the reverb fades out quite quickly. And I need here a longer fade out. So my plan is to keep freezing the reverb. You can freeze it throughout the whole breakdown lengths. And in that way, we will have the reverb present all the time. What I can do is now to simply automate the volume of the reverb. And maybe and what I would like to do as well is create a fade in for that frozen reverb. But now if I use the freeze control like that, I can't do that. The thing is, if I want the reverb to be frozen, I have to apply an automation somewhere in the middle of the vocals. And at this moment, the reverb is going to be too loud. And I would like that frozen reverb to appear at that moment when the vocals stop to play, and then I want to create some sort of a fade in for that reverb. So maybe instead of freezing a reverb like that, I'm just going to export the reverb to a separate channel. And then I'm going to have the whole reverb on a frozen reverb on a separate channel. I want the sound of the reverb to be natural. I would like to have as little fade-ins or fade-outs as possible. So I'm going to record a long reverb. And this reverb could be as long as 32 bars, so there will be no need to play around with the fades. On top you can hear that in time the reverb slightly changes, and this is going to give a bit more of movement to the track. That's enough. Okay, from what moment should I play the reverb? Let's make the reverb play from that moment. I can trim the reverb here. I have 32 bars long reverb recording, and now I can automate the volume of this channel. But now minus infinity is a bit too quiet. Let's also bend a bit this modulation so the frozen vocal appears a bit earlier. And now, should I automate a low pass filter or a volume control? A volume control. Volume will sound more natural. Maybe let's try. Something like that, and this is how the breakdown could start. And it would be good if there was nothing much happening in the beginning of the breakdown. After all, we have 32 bars left to arrange, so a bit later we could add remaining sounds to somehow create a drop that will, yes, lead to the second main part of the track. Why do I hear vocals? Ah. The respace is also useless now. And yes, after the drop, yes, the second main part of the track should sound like that. So now I know how the breakdown has to start, how it has to end. We can arrange it, but not today, because it's already quite too late. Let me know if you have any questions before I finish this stream. If not, we see each other probably in the next Sunday. If there are no questions, I see nothing on the chat. This would be the time to finish the stream for today. I think I made a good progress today. These vocals really add a lot to the track. I wasn't expecting them to work that well. And we also added a respace. I also didn't expect a respace to be added here, but it's the sound that fits most of hard techno tracks. Okay, thanks for watching, and until next weekend.